Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Today, I'm finishing off my Nightmare Files marathon. I'll be reacting to 4 of his videos this time. And the first video that I'm looking at is Ed Gein, the monster behind multiple horror movies. I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
Edward Theodore Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was an American murderer and body snatcher. His crimes committed around his hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin, gathered widespread notoriety after authorities discovered that Gein had exhumed corpses from the local graveyards.
Yeah, what he did in life was disgusting. I saw some true crime documentaries about him. I haven't seen the Netflix Ed Gein show, and I doubt if I want to watch it. But yeah, stealing corpses out of graves and just killing a bunch of people and taking them to his farmhouse is really disturbing.
In fashion trophies and keepsakes from their bones and skin. On the morning of November 16, 1957, Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. A Plainfield resident reported that the hardware store's truck had been driven out from the rear of the building around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store was closed the entire day. Some area residents believe this was because of the deer hunting season. Bernice Warden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the store's cash register open and blood stains on the floor. Frank Warden told investigators that Ed Gein had been in the store the evening before his mother's disappearance, and that he would return the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze. A sales slip for a gallon of antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on the morning she disappeared. On the evening of the same day, Gein was arrested at a West Plainfield grocery store. The county sheriff department searched the Gein farm. The county sheriff's deputy discovered Warden's decapitated body in the shed on Gein's property.
Yep, I knew it because if he was the last person that this deputy sheriff's mother has seen at her hardware store, more likely he probably kidnapped her and killed her at his property. Ah, man, that's disgusting and disturbing to hear. I was just glad that this psycho was caught back then because he would have been roaming free and it would have been an unsolved mystery of these graves being dug up and people disappearing for years to come.
Hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles.
Jeez
and
Louise.
ropes at her wrist. The torso was dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, and the mutilations were made after her death. Searching the house, authorities found whole human bones and fragments, waste baskets made of human skin covering several chair seats, female skulls, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso skinned from shoulders to waist, leggings made from human leg skin, a mask made from the skin of a female's head, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's pot-bellied stove, a young girl's dress in the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old, a belt made from female human nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and fingernails from female fingers.
Ay. If I was an investigator back then, I would have been puking, seeing all that. Imagine someone literally taking the face off of somebody else and make a mask out of it, or a lampshade, and fashioning a belt made out of female nipples. This guy is really twisted in the head. And look at his picture right here. He's smirking like he don't give a darn. He liked doing what he was doing. But also making bowls out of human skulls. Yuck. That would instantly make me get nauseous because no sane person would eat anything that had a brain in it at one time.
These artifacts were photographed at the State Crime Laboratory and then destroyed. When questioned, Gein told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies, while he was in a dazed-like state. On about 30 of these visits, he said he came out of the daze while in the cemetery, left the grave in a good order, and returned home empty-handed. On other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother, and took the bodies home with him, where he tanned their skins to make his paraphernalia.
Talking about being in a daze my foot. He knew what he was doing. Probably saw some bodies and went like, nah, leave them. But then the rest of them that resembled his mother, he took home.
Gein admitted to stealing from 9 graves and led investigators to their locations. Because authorities were uncertain as to whether the slight Gein was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening, they exhumed 2 of the graves and found them empty, thus apparently corroborating Gein's confession. Alan Willigomoski of the State Crime Laboratory participated in opening 3 test graves identified by Gein. The caskets were inside wooden boxes. The top boards ran crossways. The top of the boxes were about 2 feet below the surface in sandy oil. Gein had robbed the graves soon after the funerals, while the graves were not completed. They were found as Gein described. 1 casket was empty. 1 Gein had failed to open when he lost his pry bar. Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman's suit so that he could become her, to literally crawl into her skin. Gein denied having relations with the bodies he exhumed, explaining, "They smelled too bad," during State Crime Laboratory interrogation. Gein also admitted to the shooting death of Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since 1954, whose head was found in his house. But he later denied memory of details of her death. A 16-year-old whose parents were friends of Gein, who had attended ball games and movies with him, reported that Gein kept shrunken heads in his house, which Gein had described as relics from the Philippines sent by a cousin who had served on the islands during World War II.
If he was having those thoughts of making a skin suit just so he can feel like her, he should have just took his butt to a mental asylum. But no, liked it too much that he just kept on doing it and thought he was never going to get caught. Well, if you didn't take the hardware store owner away with you, you probably would have never been caught. I'm glad he had the decency to say, nah, he didn't mess with none of them female bodies because they stank. Because it would be sickening to hear that he made love to them, if you know what I mean. But I'll be checking them shrunken heads to make sure that they're not actual people that were missing and he found a way to shrink their heads to make it look like island souvenirs. I'll buy that whole thing of his cousin being in World War II. It might be true, but I don't know. It's creepy that he actually has those in his house too.
Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human skins, carefully peeled from corpses and used by Gein as mask. Gein was also considered a suspect in several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin, including the 1953 disappearance of Evelyn Hartley, who was actually a babysitter. During questioning, a county sheriff, Art Schley, reportedly assaulted Gein by banging his head and face into a brick wall. As a result, Gein's initial confession was ruled inadmissible by the court. Schley died of a heart failure at age 43 in 1968, before Gein's trial. Many who knew Schley said he was traumatized by the horror of Gein's crimes. And this, along with the fear of having to testify, caused his death. One of his friends said he was a victim of Ed Gein as surely as if he had butchered him. In 1957, Gein was deemed unfit for trial. But in 1968, doctors determined that Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate as in defense. The trial began November 7th, 1968, and lasted 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he did not know whether the killing of Bernice Worden was intentional or accidental. Gein had told him that while he examined a gun in Worden's store, the gun went off, killing Worden. Gein testified that after trying to load a bullet into the rifle, it discharged. He said he had not aimed the rifle at Worden and did not remember anything else that happened that morning.
Bull crap. I call foul on that. He knew what he was doing. He put the bullet in the gun and shot her. I can't believe that they deemed him unfit for trial in the 50s, but in 68, they were able to get him up in front of a courtroom. I mean, if I was the judge in his case, I would have been saying that he should be getting the lethal injection because he's not fit to keep on living.
At the request of the defense, Gein's trial was held without a jury. Gein was found guilty. A second trial dealt with Gein's sanity. After testimony by doctors for the prosecution and defense, they ruled again not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him committed to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. Gein spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital. But due to prohibitive costs, Gein was tried for only one murder, and that was Miss Worden. He also admitted killing Mary Hogan. On July 26, 1984, Ed Gein died at Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure, but secondary to lung cancer.
Okay, I feel kind of mad at this point because I cannot believe a judge would actually agree to have him committed to a psychiatric hospital. What he done in life was really too twisted and dark for him to keep on living. Like I said earlier, if I was a judge, either take him to the electric chair, kill him by lethal injection. But I know that he'll be burning in hell for all eternity for what he's done. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Nightmare Files content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Square channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. That's a wrap, and that's day all.